Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It has been a couple of weeks. We apologize. Lori and I, life is just lifing, as they say. But yeah, we are back. We are back out of the broom closet. Our broomsticks are geared up for some amazing chats today with our wonderful guest, Lauren Perlingi. She is known affectionately as the Mermaid Light on Instagram. Lauren is an expert in all things human design. Her work and life revolve around inspiring and empowering entrepreneurs and humans everywhere on the path to unwavering certainty in their life purposes. She does this using many avenues, like her collective, the Enlightened Misfit Sisterhood, where she unites spiritual rebels to build wealth and rise together. She offers human design guidance and clarity for anyone curious about the practice, and I know we are. So welcome, Lauren. We are so excited to talk to you.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you both for having me.
Yay.
Absolutely. So, human design. Yeah, I have no idea what this really is. I'm going to assume that maybe a lot of other people don't know what it is.
Mhm.
They're in the boat with me. Tell us a little bit about human design, what it is. And then let's talk about how you use it, what you do with it, and your
Sure.
practice.
So, and I should say in very simple terms, human design is a mix of astrology, the I Ching, which is ancient wisdom, the Kabbalah, which is the Chinese book, and also the chakra system. So it uses like all of them together, all energy,
Okay.
quantum physics, science, all of it together, and it creates this really weird looking chart that people are get very overwhelmed just looking at it. And what I did for me is so that's like the very simple. I usually say it's like astrology on steroids because it goes a little bit deeper into just not because everybody really knew. I mean, everybody knows what astrology is, but if they don't, it's like okay. So it's just like where you were. It's basically where you were born, like where the planets were, where the stars were when you were born, and then everything else is like DNA, it's atoms, it's cells, it's the energy, it's all of that combined into your design. So all of us are energy. We're just
Hmm.
living in, meat suits or whatever you call them. And the human
Yeah.
Touche.
design, the human design piece is basically the energy behind all of that. So when I kind of started to learn about, I guess it's been about 7 years now that I started to kind of self teach myself. I don't claim to be a certified reader because I'm not, but the way that I read human design is very intuitive. And it's just, I feel like I have a really natural ability to just know when people talk to me and I'm reading their charts, like I have their chart up on my screen and they're talking to me and my eyes go to exactly where their block is. So I'm like, I know where the channel is, I know where the gate is. All of that is a little bit like extensive human design, but it's basically just the energy. And if you understand like electricity, you need the light switch to come on. It needs to be connected to something. And it's usually when things are not connected or there's a block. Block just means trauma, or it could be emotional or money block or something like that. So that's kind of like how I use it in for business because it's how I used it for myself in my own business. Obviously, I've worked with mentors, I've self taught myself, I've done all of that. But I realized that if I just, my biggest message, I guess, is for people is if you just understand your human design, you don't need anybody else to tell you or show you what to do. Human design is just, I always tell people that it's helping you remember who you are. I'm not telling you who you are. I'm just helping you remember who you are and why you came here or whatever it is, right? So that's kind of like how I use human design. I know that there is a lot of human design teachers and they'll teach about human design, but I just feel like, sure, that's great to know, but then how do you apply it? Like it's great to, of course, if it's
Sure.
somebody like me, of course, I want to know everything about human design and I'm still learning to this day. But at the same time, it's like there was nobody out there and there isn't really many people out there that are actually teaching people how to apply it and giving them like simple tools because it's not a simple system. Like it's just not. So that's kind of
Mm.
Mhm.
hopefully that answers your question, but that is basically what human design is and how I use it in my business.
Yeah, I mean, astrology charts to me are like an insane math equation. I don't get it. So
Mhm.
it sounds like it's very similar. You need an expert to decode. So good to know. Obviously, I'm a little rusty on recording, Liz. I just jumped right in. We didn't even talk about
Right.
how you got here.
I think it's actually good to know kind of the what, and then we can get to the how'd you, why, and the who, and the what, and the e, and the, you know what I mean? Like what drew you to humans? It sounds like, because
Yeah,
from what you're talking about, it sounds like you are very intuitive as a human. So
yeah.
maybe
Another
other,
tool.
other gifts led you to human design as your
Tool.
vehicle. Yeah.
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 Tell us a little about
Yeah.
Lauren. What's Lauren's
So
story?
I
What's your human design? Oh.
oh my yes, my human design, I'm a 6-2 emotional projector. So um what that means
Hmm.
is a 6-2 is just
Fancy.
a role model hermit. So basically my I need a lot of alone time, but I'm also here to be a teacher, guide, projectors are the guides here. It's like we're the between, the physical and the spiritual, and we just have a really good ability to see the bigger picture to things. Now, however, I don't want to say that it's hard for me to see some of my bigger picture things, obviously, because it's me and my humanness gets in my way. But
Yes.
for when I'm looking at client stuff or just when people talk, I'm like, why are you doing it that way? Why? That's the hard way, or something like that. People always notice
Love the hard way. The hard way
Yeah.
is the best way sometimes,
It's more
right?
exciting,
Oh,
truly.
yeah. Or I shouldn't say hard way, because I feel like I do things the hard way. I should say like the eat, like people will take 6 steps and it's just like you just have to do this and that. And it's like but I can see
right.
that, and it's like you
Totally.
don't see that. And it could just be a
Yeah.
manifestor or a manifesting generator or a generator. So it's like it's just that they just don't they are just wired to differently. That's all. Um so that's pretty
Yeah.
much what a projector means. It's just a guide. However, my whole chart has a lot of deep shadow work that I had to go through and that I'm still going through, because I feel like a lot of projectors can probably resonate with this if they're listening to this. But pessimism is a shadow part, because, there's light and shadow, obviously, everywhere. And it's the same thing in human design. There's a shadow part of every gate that you have activated or anything in your chart. So a lot of my shadow is pessimism. So I have to really be careful for me when I'm dealing with the shadow work, because pessimism comes out a lot. And I feel like that blocked me a
Hmm.
lot in my journey for confidence or self doubt. And I feel like a lot of us have that anyway, but it's just like, just things to look out for, I feel like, come up to, or the different traumas. There's just so much you can find out from human design. I'm really big into trauma healing. And I found
Mhm.
out I could see people's genetic trauma in their chart, or generational trauma or something like that. I could see that in their chart and realize, oh my goodness, this is people's core wound. And it's like they keep repeating
Mm.
all these patterns and cycles. And I'm like, well, here is your genetic trauma is something your genetic trauma is something you come into the world with. You can never It's never going to be healed. It's just going to be managed, or you can
Right.
control it. Versus, when I say that to people, they're like, the awareness of that seems to be like, oh my goodness, I feel like just knowing that can heal. Anyway, I feel like I'm going off a tangent there.
No,
Anywho, my story,
No,
I think
it's all part of it.
my story.
no, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? But so it sounds like you similar to astrology is there is a
Yeah. Yeah.
chart
Yeah.
and based on your birth date, place, time, all that stuff. How is it different from astrology, or is it? Is it just another form of astrology? Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm asking that right, but like
No, that makes, well, because it uses the same information:
It's
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
the same.
name, date, birth
Yeah.
date, time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say it's the same, but it's just deeper. So it's like, it's surface
Okay.
level, like astrology surface level, human design is deeper. It gives you more information about what astrology is already giving. It
Mm.
uses it. I've actually talked a little bit more about astrology, because I feel like in the human design space, nobody really talks about astrology, because at half the time it's because they don't really understand it. I came from really understanding astrology to realizing that it's kind of the same, like gates are, very similar to the houses, and there is planets in the chart that really matters when it comes to your houses. Like people always, they know their sun, moon, and rising, but like that isn't anything. That's, to me, I'm like, well, that, okay, so you're an Aquarius, like I'm going to just say my chart. You're an Aquarius sun. Oh, you're a Pisces moon and rising. But like then when you look at the full overall chart, here you can't get a bigger picture because the house that your sun is in is important. The moon, the
Sure.
house that's in is important. Same thing with human design. It matters. So when people,
Mm,
especially like entrepreneurs, and they're like, this is not working, I'm not attracting the right clients, it's because, are you aligning with your Mercury? That's how you communicate. Are you aligning with your throat center in human design? No, you're not. Well, that is why you're not attracting the
mm,
right people. You're attracting people that are not going to pay you or whatever. So it's just knowing that
mhm,
piece of astrology and human design is really important, because it's not like I'm helping you know anything different. It's just I'm showing you where to look. It's like nobody's
mm,
like
uh-huh.
helping you change or whatever. It's like there's no coach that's, I want to, it's like there's some coaches that are like, I'll make you this much money, I'll make you that. It's just like, no, if you just align with yourself, the abundance will come.
Right.
So
It sounds kind of like, okay, if astrology, because it's extremely confusing, even when you do like the deep
yeah,
down chart, and it doesn't necessarily give you what sounds like human design is more of like the interpretation and how to apply
yeah,
it
yeah.
Mhm.
more. Cause it's like, okay, this is all in Greek, like Lori said, this is all in Greek here, and that's nice. This is in English, like
Yeah.
translation. This is how you operate, and this is how you can make your life work for you. And you are like the translator, interpreter, and communicator of all of those things, which is very cool. I'm so curious. I mean, about so many things, but you were just talking about, really being in line with how you communicate and different things and how you attract clients. Are there any charts where you're like, this is not for you? You're not supposed to be an entrepreneur. Like, this is, yeah, find a different path.
I can't say, well, maybe a couple years ago, I can't remember exactly. I know that she was a nurse, and she was supposed to do, I think when I did her chart, it was like she was doing some type of sound healing, and she's trying to do, like, she had a brick and mortar business. So I guess like she's a business owner, but she was trying to do it more online, entrepreneur, like online business, and that wasn't working. Hers needed to be more in person, I should say. Like hers needed to be more like she's in a physical space. She needed to use that physical space. So
Uh,
I don't want to
mhm.
say that it wasn't, but there is a lot of charts that I read that I'm like, what are you doing? This is what you're supposed to be doing. Like,
Yeah.
I have a friend, and she'll probably listen to this podcast, but she's in nursing school. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? And, like she is a healer at heart.
She hates the sight of blood.
Not in the chart, my friend, not in the chart. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. Everybody has their own path. I'm not here to say this is not for you. I'm just here to be like, if something's not working. But I think I recorded my own podcast yesterday with a girl. And I think what I already knew when I was talking to her about it, it was coming through from my friend, because my friend was like, nursing school sucks. It's so hard, all this stuff. And I'm like, well, why are you doing it? And she's like, well, it's going to give me money. It's safe. And the girl yesterday that I was recording with, she was in nursing school. She got out of nursing school and fulfilled her path. And I was like, God, you sound just like my friend. I wish you could talk to her. So I'm going to send her that episode. But anyway, so I said to her, she said to me one word. She said, but it was safe for me. And I think that that is a big thing with a lot of people I read charts for. If they're in the
Makes
career
sense.
right now that's safe for them, same thing with me. Like I was a high risk OB ultrasound tech. That was safe. That was made me a lot of money. But then it's just the universe was like, this is not for you anymore. And then I resisted it for so long that then it became hard to get out of. And that's like, oh, now I have no job. And then
Mm.
it's like, I'm not going back. I have to figure out something. My mom's looking at me like I'm crazy. She's like, you just wasted all this time at, 10 years of your life. You went to 4 years of college. What are you doing? You have a daughter that's 6 months old. What are you doing? I was like, I don't know, but I guess figure it out, you know? And she's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to this day, my whole family thought I was crazy, but they don't say anything now because they see that I'm successful. So it's like, whatever. But anyway, yeah. I think a lot of people, when I read their charts, they're completely out of what they're here to do. And I feel like when the universe when you're like a volunteer, when you come to Earth to be a volunteer and you're not in you're not in your purpose right now, it's hard. Your life is hard. I mean, life is hard in general, but I feel like you hate your job, you
Yeah.
have no money, it's like the universe will make you or you're not making money. I feel like a lot of us that have that, experience, the universe will hold back money because that's the only way that you're going to change. I wish there was another
Yeah.
way, but I feel like it's us humans are not going to we care about our money. So that's when the universe likes to play around.
Yeah. Well, it's the requirement for life, right? Like it's like you have to have, even if you don't like it, you have to have money to live, and that's what makes the world go round right now. So
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
big barrier for sure.
It's so interesting because as a society, if it were normal, quote unquote, typical, common to truly spend time digging into what your purpose is versus how you buy a house or go on vacation, right? And that's because, society's fucked up and that's a whole other episode. And I won't go on a tangent and I won't talk about how shitty religion is. My two favorite topics, anti capitalism, anti religion. Anyway, if we weren't focused on money over people, and spent time of like, who am I really? What am I supposed to be? How do I contribute to others? This would be such a different place,
Yeah.
right? We would be different. The world would be different. Wah, wah, wah. But I think it's so important because at the end of the day, to your point, we can all find something to do so we can survive. And that's okay. I need money too. We all need to survive. We all want to live. We need money to have experiences. So it's just unfortunate, right? And I think it's so important with what you do, with what I do from the mediumship side, is helping people learn like this is actually what your chart says, your DNA, your purpose.
Yeah.
Use that. And I think what you're saying is like it doesn't have to be you can't do what you're currently doing. You just might need to do it
Right.
differently.
Yeah.
You might need to focus differently. It might translate differently. Which is so important. And people, I think, they hear us talk about astrology or charts or intuition, and it's like, yeah, yeah, woo woo, ha ha. But there's a lot of information that you can receive from, these vehicles that can help you in what you're doing
Yeah.
now, right?
That you said that
I,
because it is just a tool. It's not you. It's an experience. Like it's a human experience. It's an experiment. Like you just have to experience with your human design. You might not like it. You might be like, I don't like it. I want to do
Yeah.
something else. I want to use a different tool. It could
Yeah.
help you with your intuitive gifts. It could help you with, a lot of people. I used to do mediumship a lot, and I just did it, and I didn't know what I was doing. I feel like I joke and say that I came out of my mom and I, just could see everything. Like I just and of course it got suppressed with trauma and then, I stopped talking about it and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it and I didn't know if this was real, that was real. So I stopped and I got really sick after realizing, oh, I don't have good boundaries or I didn't even know what boundaries were. And I feel like now going back to it, spirit has been pushing me back to doing it. So I did open up and I was like, nobody's going to book with me. Like, they don't look at me as psychic or medium. And like, I just posted it yesterday and I had like 10 people wanting to do sessions. And I was like, I say this to say, sure, I seem confident. Sure. But at the end of the day, I still have my own, self doubt, or it's like nobody cares, nobody's listening, and it just goes to show that it's like I've worked so hard on myself. And I feel like once you do that, like, you said, Lori, it shows. And it's like, then you start to see all the benefits and, say going back to money, it's like, sure, I want $1 million, but it's not going to be for me. It's going to be so I can travel, so I can afford more things, so I can
Exactly.
give back, so I can, help the collective. It's not going to be, of course, you need money to travel. You need money to do things. So yeah,
Yeah. I feel guilty charging people
yeah,
for readings. Like I have a problem with it because I feel like I'm supposed to give that information. However, it's your time. I'm doing a reading instead of working a real job during those
Right.
hours, real job. So we have to reframe it for ourselves. And I think it's just a balance
Yeah.
with that. Okay. So separate question with astrology. My sun is Libra. I'm Sagittarius,
Oh,
moon
okay.
and rising. Lizzie is a Leo. She's Cancer moon, Virgo rising.
Hits her.
But when we did the human design, I did your little link really
Oh,
quickly.
okay.
I was trying to I'm like, "Oh, let me look." But Lizzie and I are both
Oh, okay.
generators. So it's interesting because the same from that perspective, but our, sun, moon, and rising very different. How is that similar? And I know that's just one indicator of
Yeah.
the whole thing, but I'm just curious, like, how does that work?
So the energy type is just how you attract opportunities. So generators are the builders. And when I say the builders of the world, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to do everything. It's only the things that
Yeah.
light you up. So you're here to like builders of the world, meaning the collective. So there's 5 different types. Like I said, projectors are the guides. The reflectors, they reflect back everything that we need to change pretty much. They're like 1% of the population.
Okay.
They're like the unicorns of the collective. Manifesting generators are very similar to generators. They just can build it quicker. Like they can build 5 things at one time versus a generator needs to focus on one thing. And a lot of manifesting generators, they, hold a lot of shame around from childhood of I want to focus on 6 things and my mom told me I only need to focus on one, that type of thing. So you'll start to notice like if you start to like, ask people or human design, you're going to start to notice that manifesting generators, they just can't sit down. Like they just don't sit
Yeah.
down. Like they just want to always do
That's
everything.
me.
Now generators,
I was going to say, I was like, Laura, are you sure you're not a manifesting generator?
I'm that person, I think. I can't do one thing at once. It actually stresses me out to only have one thing going on at a time. But like everything, I'm sure there's other
yeah,
stuff in the
yeah,
chart that
probably.
probably accounts for that piece. But
Yeah.
anyway, carry on.
And
Sorry.
then, so then the generators are basically here to build whatever the manifestors, because there's also a manifestor. So they're the ones that initiate everybody into action and then they step away. Now, they don't normally step away. They like to control everything. And that's kind of where you get burnout. I also want to say the reason why you want to really energetically align to your energy type and your strategy and your authority, that comes in play too with things is you want to not burn out. That's like basically the goal. And projectors and generators are the ones that will burn out the quickest because especially generators, you guys, you do always do a lot of things. And sometimes you can't finish the first thing. And it's because you're focused on 5 other things and not having that manifesting generator energy. You don't have that focus to finish. I don't know if Lori, that is
Got it.
you like to do a million things, but you're going to burn yourself out
Yeah, that's
if you're
me.
not. I'm giving you unsolicited advice, but you burn
No, love it. You're right.
yourself out.
So
Yeah,
true. So
if you
true.
don't finish that
Yeah.
one thing to move to the next. Now you can do 3 different things at one time, but just make sure you have enough energy to finish all 3.
I think the difference between Liz and I is like I'm the idea, big picture person. I'm like, here's this thing, and here's how I think it's going to happen. And Liz actually can get it done. Like she's the person who's like, yes, I understand your wacky brain and what you're thinking. I can break it down into the project. There's the Virgo. I can execute it. Also the Virgo. So she has that part. Yeah, she's got that Virgo rising, right? So
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, I can do it. And I'm like, great. All right. You have fun with that. Let me go
But
come up with something else.
I'm really good at starting those things.
Yeah.
I'm not always good at completing them. Unless I'm being paid for it, obviously, then I need to.
Sure.
Like I'm required to do that. But, like in my life, I have a hard time staying focused to the finish
Yeah.
because I might get distracted.
We want to
Yeah.
have fun. If it starts getting boring, we're both checked out. As soon as
Yeah.
it's like, this isn't fun. We're not laughing. We're not
Yeah.
saying fuck enough. Like, we got to get out of here. This is not,
Yeah. Yep.
we're
Check,
similar. We're very
check,
similar in
check.
that sense, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, I think that's really interesting. So is the generator is if we relate it to astrology, is that like your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign?
I don't
Is there
Yeah,
any
I don't want to say
similarity?
that because I don't no, it isn't because your
Yeah.
sun, if you look at your chart, you'll have a gate on your
Yeah.
sun. So that is according to your
Interesting. That's
your
how
sun.
it
So your sun and your on your personality side and your human design, which is the right side of your chart, the unconscious
Yeah.
side is your soul. So that all those planets might be a little bit different. And that goes along with your, north node, south node, your midheaven, your all that. But that when I don't sometimes when I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing their human design or their astrology chart, I'll look in their human design chart and that tells me the exact same thing. It just doesn't tell me like maybe the house that it is in, because I would have to look in the mandala,
Got
the
it.
other chart in human design where the wheel, and I can look at that type of stuff. But yeah,
So
I don't want to say
interesting.
no. It's not related.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect it for people who only understand astrology, like
Yeah,
where might be the connection, but it sounds like,
best way to
yeah.
explain it is it just explains a little bit deeper of who you are. If you
Okay.
want to explain it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Would you mind then going through? So I just pulled it up. I know, Laura, you're looking at yours on your phone, right? And I
Yeah.
pulled up the website where you give the free
Yeah.
thank you for everyone. Please go
Yes.
see
Thank you.
Lauren's website, themermaidlight.com. She gives free human design charts, very detailed. And I'm like, shit, I should have done this before, but now we're here and we're
Well,
with you.
but I did it and then I looked at it and then I got overwhelmed by all the information. That's why people need to call the expert that uses the
Yeah.
tool. And I'll
Yes.
always say that. Like, we can sit here and do this. Lizzie and
Yeah.
I can read our own and try to connect it, but calling Lauren and scheduling a session is super important. And I think that's, the plug here, which I fully believe in,
Hmm.
because there's so much to interpret. Um,
Yeah. Because these are, yeah. But like okay, so for everyone not seeing this, like there's a chart just like in astrology that not the same, but there is a chart with degrees, I would imagine, or numbers associated with signs and planets, like she was talking about, or houses, or however we're doing it. One side's design and one side's personality. So, and then there's this big image with graphics of all sorts, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And like it looks like some sort of machine with cogs,
Sure.
and I'm like, all right, there's some sort of design element, right? But then you go, yes, it was like you go down and then there's different descriptions of, so what Lori is talking about in generator, and Lori and Lauren we're talking about generator or manifestor generator, that's the type that makes sense with like the energy type. So then
Yeah.
you've got 1,000 different things. So strategy, torita. I'm not even sure. I'm like, ooh, it's very
Oh, that's
fancy.
supposed to
A
say, yeah, that's
definition, a
I in my
profile.
back end system of my like when I built all of this, it's supposed to say authority and it changes it to whatever language it
Oh,
changes it to. I'm like, why? Yeah.
Love that.
mine is like
Yeah,
French
it
or
must be
something. It's
French
very
or
cool.
something. Yeah.
I
Yes.
love it.
And then it's like incarnation cross, signature, not self theme, digestion. Gotta know what that is. I mean,
Oh,
sounds like how you eat and how you digest, but I mean, maybe not. Sense, design sense, motivation, perspective, environment, decision making strategy, skills and attributes. Okay. So, I mean, we don't have time to go through all of these, but where should we look first? What are like the initial areas, and what are they supposed to be telling us? Just like you would, I mean, like I'm going to equate it to like a sun, a rising, and a moon, just to like give us like a basic understanding, versus then obviously calling Lauren and being like, what the fuck does all this mean? Where can we start and be like, okay, I've kind of got a good sense of how I begin this journey.
So I always say, like, for my free calls, I always go into, like, I'll ask questions, obviously, but then I'll always ask, do you have any questions about your human design? Obviously, they say yes. But I tell them, this is what I want you to do is you do a session with me or not, I want you to practice with your energy type, strategy, and authority. And like when you see strategy is your business too. Like your business is you.
okay.
So you don't have to do a different strategy. You don't have to match somebody's market strategy or whatever. Like, not that this could be a whole other podcast, but when people say, well, I need my marketing strategy. Okay, well, that's in your human design and your astrology. I can tell you that. This is what it is. This is the energy that you need to cultivate to do this. So this is what you do. And people are like, oh, so I don't need to go like work with a marketing strategist? No, you don't, because it's not going to work. They're going to teach you all of their strategies and none of them are going to work because it's not your energy. So I always tell people to
Interesting.
practice with their energy type. So practice being a generator. Most likely you have not practiced. Whatever energy type you are, you probably do not operate that way. I know I operated when I first found out that I was a projector. I was like, you have to be kidding me. This is wrong. And I did it again and again because I operated my whole life like a manifesting generator or a generator. That's just, because the rest of society, that's how they operate. So, and I mean, I don't know if I'm going to say this percentage right, but I think it's like 50 or 60% or even 70% are generators. That is a huge population, a
Mhm.
huge amount of the population that are generators, which is the masculine energy, which is why society act like is very masculine. So when I found out I was a projector, I'm like, what do I do now? So I had to practice. It's same thing with authority. It's how you make decisions, meaning how you're supposed to make decisions. So you don't burn out or
I see.
mine is emotional. No, that does not mean you're supposed to make emotional decisions. That means you're not supposed to make emotional decisions. Well, I was always making emotional decisions. So when I was happy, sad, mad, whatever, angry, I was always making a decision. And then the next week I would be filled with guilt and shame because I told somebody I would do something. Now I have to go do it. And I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want to fucking do any of this. Like that is constant. I mean, even now I've been practicing my design for 7 years now, and I still do that sometimes, like it's going to happen. It's not perfect. I always just say you have
Yeah.
to practice. So those are really the three things that I tell people they have to practice. Now, once they're done doing that, then they can kind of do everything else because it makes sense. They trust themselves. Like this tool is like a self-awareness and it helps you trust yourself. So like when I tell people no, I don't feel guilty for saying no because I know if I say yes, it's going to drain me. They're not going to care about it. I'm just gonna be left with like, now I'm doing something again that I don't want to do. Like it's nobody else's fault but my own. Like I can't blame anybody else for my abundance. I can't blame anybody else for, but it takes time. Like, I mean, I came from being a people pleaser, tons of trauma, I just wanted to be everybody's friend. I wanted to help everybody to the point that I was just like left by myself and nobody cared. So then I realized I trust myself enough to
Yeah.
say no. Of course I do things. Like I will do as much as I can, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, it's just like my intuition's screaming at me. I'm going to listen to it. So
Yeah.
it helps.
But also, you were saying before, like the awareness of what it is, like already, Lori, I'm so curious what yours says because it's generator, but then going back to like the other one, so
I want to
strategy and
compare you.
authority.
Yeah, I'm dying
Yes.
now. Makes sense. Mine is sacral, so gut decisions based on gut. Is that yours too?
Every energy type has the same strategy. You might just have different authorities.
Okay,
Oh.
where the authority is under. I'm looking right now. What's yours,
The,
Liz?
mine's sacral.
Oh, sacral. Yeah. Okay. And what's the other? What
So
was the
there's
other
7
one?
different authorities.
This is sacral, and
Okay.
then and then definition. Do you have that, Liz?
Yes, I have split definition.
Me too. Are we the same person? I'm starting to
We
wonder.
might be.
Okay. We might
Ooh. But what's your profile? What are your numbers? Your profile numbers.
6
I'm
and
curious
2.
about this.
6
Oh,
and
mine's 4 and 6.
Yeah. So that
interesting.
So
you're a
that
6'2" with
Lauren,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like a 6'2". Like you said, you're 6'2".
I'm a 6'2". Is that what you are?
You're a 6.
Lauren, you said Lizzie's a
Lauren's a
4.
6'2". I'm a 4'6".
I'm a 6'2"
Yeah.
also.
So you still have like the lines when it comes to profiles, like people are going to be like, what is she talking about? But basically, like
Yeah.
lines also, like the 6th line is a role model. So you're in some type of leadership. You're some type of like, you are here to show people who you are, what you did, like your story matters because it's your experiences will help somebody else's experiences, talking about that. And then like the 4, that's just conscious versus unconscious. And you probably are conscious about both of them now, but they play a different role when it comes to like making content. Somebody that makes a 4-6 making content, you don't need really alone time, which is we do. We need alone time and rest
Yeah.
to make content, or we need to be by ourselves to self-reflect versus somebody who's a 4-6 doesn't normally need to do that. Your 4-6 is basically the costume that you wear. So it's like, it's how you show up for people or how you show up in your business or in your family, in relationships, like all that stuff.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
Okay. What about, let's see, Liz, I
What is
don't
this?
know.
What is this incarnation cross situation? I gotta know. Is this like, are we going into quantum
Yeah.
realms
So
now? Because you said something about quantum physics, and
yeah.
I'm
So
curious, piqued.
the
Yeah.
incarnation cross is a little bit confusing, but it's basically your life purpose. So if you notice, the numbers in your incarnation cross are from your Earth and your Sun on your personality and also on your design side. So you're like unconscious side. And both of them together make up your life purpose. So whatever your incarnation cross is, whatever it says, that theme of that is basically what your role that you hear, like that you come to play. Now, people are like, well, how do I embody that? It's like, well, first of all, like, are you aligned with your sun and your earth? Or are you aligned with it comes down to your energy type, your strategy, and your authority. And if you are, then it'll be so much easier to fulfill the purpose or whatever your incarnation cross is. So it's pretty much what you incarnated here on earth to do. So, like, whatever theme that is. So mine is the masks of karma. So in a sense, I have a really good way to put on a mask wherever I am and get what I need to get done. Now, that didn't always help me when I was not being my authentic self, versus I play a whole bunch of different roles. Like, I'm not just a mom, I'm not just a wife, I'm not just a business owner, I'm not just a daughter or a sister or whatever. So it's like that's like the theme of your life pretty much. And you want to work towards your incarnation cross. I always tell people, you don't want to, like, that's not the end goal. You just want to start to embody the energy around your incarnation cross, whatever that is.
Mine fits. I feel pretty good. Mine is left angle cross of endeavor. It's basically motivating others to do better, which gives you the opportunity to stand out from those around you. That's what I do in job. That's what I do like a day-to-day 9 to 5. That's what I do in mediumship and reading. So I feel like mine's pretty aligned. What does yours say, Liz?
Mine is right angle cross of contagion. So I came into this world to share my enthusiasm for what
Yeah.
excites me and to seek success where others fail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
Yeah,
I
I
like
don't
that.
know you
Okay,
guys
cool. That's
personally, but
fine.
I feel like from on social media that I feel like you guys do a great job of that.
So far, let's see.
It's a fun one. I'm just here to go, good job, get it done.
You guys seem like a really good partnership, I have to say. I tried to start out my
Thanks.
podcast with, I considered her a really good friend, and then I realized very quickly she was another lesson and my old mentor. So I was
I
like,
love those people.
okay. But I always said, now, I mean, I obviously have other, relationships with people, but I to this day, I'm like very close with, we kind of like collaborate on a different level. Like, she's a generator. So it's like, I can give her, content. I'm like, hey, can you make all this content for me? And at the same time, she's like, I need you to look at all this content and I need you to like restructure it. And I redid her entire like, retreat thing. And like, I worded it to be like her midheaven. And like, she was, when she signed up, she was like, well, of course, and I did this free masterclass probably a month ago now to align with your wounded healer, because that's ultimately your biggest wound too. So a lot of people, when they're stuck in their business, it's because that wound is showing up. And so I didn't tell her, but I was like, I just did all of her content from that. And like 20 or 30 people signed up for her masterclass, and they all signed up for like whatever she was offering. And she was like, this is magic. And I was like, no, it's literally what happens when you start to, utilize that energy. And so
That's
somebody's
so
gatekeeping it.
interesting.
My husband is the one that got the download. He was like, you should do a masterclass on Chiron. I was like, what the hell am I going to talk about for Chiron? Like, I use it, like, I know about it. And he's like, you should just teach about it in relationship to marketing and your messaging and all that. And I was like, what the hell? And so I was like, fine. I was like talking to my chat GPT about like, what can I teach? How can I teach it? And I was like, oh my God, I could teach it. And people, their messaging is their Chiron. That is what they need to heal. That's their wounded healer. So.
Okay, well, I need to set up a session.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, wait a second. We both need some help here.
I don't know about Chiron. I barely passed Sun, Moon, and Rising to figure out, the base.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I know what it is. Like, it is it's like your biggest wound, right? Like, thing that you're like needing to heal, right? Like, but but how to use it in your marketing? I'm like, okay, I need to like come do my website. Like I need copy that is like speaking the language. That's so interesting
Yeah.
because to me, I'm just thinking about, I'm like, how does it apply to like a product based business or something that has nothing to do with, if Lori as a medium, right? Like that makes sense to me where she's like, okay, I'm speaking from my wound and my marketing and like in how she applies that to her mediumship and her story, like that makes sense to me. But if someone's like, oh, I sell Tupperware, like I invented a special type of Tupperware
Yeah.
that's not called Tupperware, it's called Lizzyware, and this is my new thing. Like, how would that? I'm so curious about this.
So it would just be her marketing style. So what she speaks.
Okay.
So like how she's speaking it. Like is she speaking it from a place of like I did a chart the other day and it was like she had a defined throat. And it just means that her throat center is colored in versus non-colored in. So like wherever you have colored in boxes, it just means you have consistent energy there all the time. Now I'm not talking about transits because that changes every day. So you can develop if there's like something transiting through whatever house, whatever, like whatever energy system or planet, everybody, the collective has ability to harness that energy. So that means that you don't necessarily like a projector doesn't have consistent sacral energy, which is why we can't consistently be on all the time and go, go, go because we're drained out. But that doesn't mean that there's 3 days out of the week that there's not a transit that's helping us to use that energy. So it's like you can use that energy as well. But, for somebody
Hmm.
that has like a defined throat center, of course I have a podcast. I like to talk. I have constant energy in my throat center. But when somebody says to me, oh, well, I'm going to have a podcast and I look at their chart, I'm like, no, oh my God, you're not supposed to be talking all the time unless you're going to have a podcast that's not going to have weekly episodes because you can't be constantly talking because not everybody wants to hear you all the time. But people that have consistent energy in their throat, people want to listen to them. They are here to talk. So it's like a lot of times when
Yeah.
you have that defined throat center, there you could be in a shadow of it and talking too much, or you're speaking about things that people don't want to hear versus maybe you have an activation and it's about you're supposed to be speaking what people are not, or self-doubt, or you're supposed to shine light on whatever it is, then that's what you should be speaking about. So yeah, you have to be
Interesting.
careful when it comes to
Mm,
that because that's where
got
people are
it.
like, I'm drained, nobody's listening to my podcast, I'm not getting subscribers, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't be talking all the time. That's not what you're here for. Like
Mm,
undefined throat center is also here to listen a lot and then reflect back or say back maybe something
mm.
that, I mean, we need people that don't have defined throat centers because they speak back what they hear us speak and what they see, maybe it needs to be changed or something like that.
Laura, I bet we would be opposing in that. You might be like the one that's supposed to take it in, and I'm the one that's talking all the time.
Right. Yes, I think that's
Yes.
probably true. I think that's what I talk too much and more than I should. But I do think that intuitively I adjust fairly well. Like
Yeah.
I know when I'm supposed to be talking more than I'm not. Like I in most situations, I as a human being, I'm very
Experience.
yeah, it just depends. My ADD, is terrible, so I talk sometimes. I don't speak what I'm thinking more than I should, and I work on that. But in a lot of situations, I think I know when I'm supposed to be sharing versus taking in.
Yeah, but like your job has made you like the one that's supposed to be the listener and then the doler out of advice and operations. Like you have to be talking
Yeah,
because you have the answers.
yeah, yeah. I work in human resources. We both do, but that's what typically, I do
Yeah.
is advise leaders on leading and following laws. That's what I do.
Yay,
Not
compliance.
violating every law and don't be an
Yeah,
asshole.
she talk. She tells
Yeah,
them not to
stop
talk.
talking. Yeah,
You
and
know.
stop saying that because you're gonna get sued and you sound ridiculous. Uh, I shouldn't be so straight up about that. No one will ever hire me. No.
You
If you
should.
wanna hear it like it is, I'll definitely tell you, that's for sure. But I do observe and, take things in, but I use my intuition a lot in deciphering things, which is not talking. it's reading and observing and feeling, right? So I think that's a big difference. But Liz, you're way more entertaining when you talk. I'm not as entertaining as you. My
Thanks.
actress over here, she's the entertainer.
I try. I try too much and then I get myself into trouble. I'm so curious. Okay, so when you're talking about the chakras, the
Yeah.
chakra readings, how does that play into human design? Is that because I don't see it like anywhere in the chart necessarily, but is that something that you do separately that you incorporate, or is that somewhere you can kind of see within human design?
So the boxes that you see is they're that's the chakras. So there's 7 chakras normally, right? Like in our actual bodies,
That does make
but
sense. Yes.
human design has 9. So the other 2 are just the spleen center and then the emotional solar plexus. So if you look at the top of the chart, the top is your head, then it's the ajna or third eye. Human design calls it ajna, but it's same thing, third eye. And then underneath of that is the throat, and then right underneath of that is the G center or the heart center, depending on if you're looking at it from quantum human design, because there is traditional human design and there's also quantum human design. Just for the sake of people like human design that most people don't know about it, I love the quantum human design. It's a little bit different. There's the little bit different wording. It's a little bit easier to understand, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But so I'm talking about all this traditional human design, and then underneath the G center or the heart center, you will have the sacral center, and then it's the root. And then if you're looking at your chart and off to the left side, that's where you're going to have the spleen center. And then off of to the other side, all the way at the end, other end, the right side of your chart, that's the emotional solar plexus. So that the only 2 different things from like, I guess the emotional solar plexus would be the same thing as like the solar plexus, I guess. And then there's a little tiny box above the emotional solar plexus. It's called the ego. It's not the ego in your brain, it's the willpower center. So they're all kind of related to the chakras. They just all have different purposes. And then the last one, I don't know if I said this, the root. So
Yes.
they're all related to the chakras though. It's just broken up. They broke up into different energy systems. I'm assuming just because of the way they built the body graph.
Okay. Interesting.
Anyone that's listening to this needs to stop, rewind, go to the website, do your own chart, follow along so you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of start to understand what's happening because you're,
Yep.
walking us through it, and then schedule time with you so they can really deep dive into, the entire chart. That would be my recommendation because there's so much
Definitely.
there, but I think it's fun to, do your own and then, use your feedback as we're talking it through to just kind of connect the
Yeah.
dots,
Mm-hmm.
and then set up that time to deep
Yeah. I give
dive.
a lot of
Yes. Yes. Definitely. I'm going to be doing
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say I give a lot of
Yeah.
free there's a lot of people that make you pay for videos and they're like, oh, click this and you'll have a little short video of like authority. And I guess I could do something like that. But I was just like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna give all this information. Like I already did all of
Yeah.
that and I think it was so much wasted money that I'm just like, I want to be different, that I'm just gonna give everybody like in their free chart all the information, and if they still have questions then they can book.
So I'm for sure signing up because I got to know
Yeah.
what the
Yep.
fuck my chakras are doing, what these numbers mean. I need to know. I need to
Yeah.
know. Yay. Well, Lauren, and I was just looking, guys, she does not stop at human design, by the way. She is a certified yoga instructor. She's a meditation coach. She's a quantum healer. What the fuck that means, I don't know, but we're going to have to find out another time. But Lauren, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here. It's
been
just
fun.
opened up our understanding of human design so much. That now I'm going to go tell everybody that they need to, especially if they're an entrepreneur, they need to go do their human design. Thank you. This is so super cool.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. And we'll add in the show notes all of
Okay.
your links, your
Yes.
podcast or YouTube, all that good stuff, Instagram,
Yes.
so people know where to find you. And then I guess Liz, we'll do our charts and then maybe recap on a separate episode and we can walk through kind of what we found out with Time with
Lauren.
Lauren. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Awesome. I think
Yay,
that's super
perfect.
fun. And then we can see how our business minds meet up to be like, okay, this is
Sounds
our new
great.
marketing strategy, guys. It's going to be like, you should not
Love
have a
it.
podcast. And we're going to be like,
Too
well,
late.
we're fucked. Too late. Lauren, again, this is great. Yeah. We will wrap everything up, throw it in the show notes. But thanks again, everybody, for listening. And we will see you next time on Beyond Dimensional.
Bye.